approximately 8% boost. The full retirement age for most people is currently 66 years plus several months. Married couples in particular have a number of filing strategies to consider for maximizing their earned benefit. What matters is that you make an informed choice. Hard to believe, but Medicare is even more complicated. Medicare provides universal health insurance for people aged 65 or older. The key decision is whether to go with traditional fee-for-service Medicare or the managed care Medicare Advantage. If you pick traditional Medicare over Medicare Advantage, you'll also need to decide on the best supplemental coverage or Medigap policy to protect yourself from potentially high out-of-pocket costs. Again, Mark is a trustworthy guide to your choices. I want to echo Mark's call, no, make that shout, for all of us to exercise our voices and our votes to make America's social contract between the generations, Social Security and Medicare, even more generous and comprehensive, while ensuring that both programs are financially stable. The quality of the future retirement of the younger generations who will eventually find themselves at retirement age is at stake. The development of modern retirement is among the great economic and social achievements of the 20th century. Before Social Security, 1935, and Medicare and Medicaid, 1965, a majority of elderly Americans fell into poverty after they stopped working. These two programs are the foundations of economic security in retirement. They're also concrete expressions of two powerful yet abstract ideas: the common good and intergenerational equity. Social Security is a trust based on broadly shared civic and religiously based principles. Concern for our parents, for our neighbors, for our children, and for the legacy we will leave for our children and those who follow, writes Nancy Altman, co-director of the nonprofit organization Social Security Works. What Altman says about Social Security holds for Medicare. Social Security and Medicare have always been important, but their stabilizing role is increasingly critical because financial insecurity among older Americans is on the rise. America's retirement system is currently a mess, a technical economic term. System, as Mark notes, is too grand a word for the ad hoc retirement financial edifice that currently exists. To be sure, the current structure works reasonably well for those on the payroll of an employer with a retirement benefit plan and relatively stable jobs. Long-term employees at larger companies typically have 401ks with automatic enrollment, automatic contribution increases, employer matching contributions, and well-diversified portfolios. The odds that they'll maintain their standard of living in their elder years are high. But for most people, the so-called system is opaque, difficult to navigate, and fails too many workers in providing economic security in retirement. The core problem is that the kind of institutional arrangements that once shared risks among participants in society have given way to programs that shift the burden of risk management toward individuals. A classic example is traditional pensions being replaced by 401ks. The financial risks associated with long lives are too much for most people, especially considering how major economic upheavals can damage household finances. Here's an incomplete list drawn from the past quarter century. 2 major recessions in the first decade of this century, the tragedy of 9/11, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the global credit crunch and Great Recession, the pandemic and lockdown economy, higher inflation during the rebound from the pandemic, and the economic disturbances ignited by Russia's tragic invasion of Ukraine. The social compact between the generations should be expanded in the 21st century. Most important is for society to embrace a universal, risk-sharing, long-term care benefit. The demand for long-term care is growing with the aging of the population. Long-term care is expensive, and the costs are unevenly distributed throughout society. Most older adults don't have sufficient savings to pay the potential tab. Their families, the so-called informal care system, usually step in and provide the bulk of care. The formal care system is a frayed patchwork quilt of programs, including nursing